It's 2 a.m. in Kyiv, Ukraine, where the Russian invasion entered a new phase this afternoon. And the president of Ukraine has called up his reserves tonight. Why Vladimir Putin doesn't need to conquer Ukraine to win the war. Good evening. I'm Leland, Vittertt. Simple facts. President Biden's threat of sanctions to prevent a Russian invasion has failed. There is a lot of news tonight, including the Russian billionaires that President Biden wants to target, more U.S. troops heading to Europe, and the weird split in the Republican Party over Ukraine. But first, the situation on D-Day +1. Here's President Biden from earlier.
To put it simply, Russia just announced that it is carving out a big chunk of Ukraine. He's setting up a rationale to take more territory by force, in my view. And if we listened to his speech last night, and many of you did, I know, he's setting up a rationale to go much further.
All right. Let's start with the ground truth. What Putin is doing, what he wants to do, what he can do. Then we'll get to the American response. All right. Ukraine here, Russia here. We've been talking about the Russian forces massing here. This is the area that the Russian-backed separatists have controlled since 2014, the town of Donetsk and the town of Luhansk. Over the past 24 hours, since we were on the air last night, the Russians have moved about 10,000, could be more troops into this area here. This, what they call the line of contact, is where the Ukrainian forces are here, the best Ukrainian forces, and then the Russian forces here. So far, there's not been a major battle between the two. This is the important part. Outlined in red is the area that Vladimir Putin declared separate countries, that the Russian military has the ability to protect, because he says these are ethnically Russian. They want to be part of Russia. His military will come in to protect them. So once you have this staging ground set over the next couple of days, these troops here, they will push out, and that is when the clashes with the Ukrainians actually begin. This is creating a pretense, if you will, for a full-on war with the Ukrainian government and the Ukrainian military by the Russians here to push to here. Once they get to here, they can move down to Crimea, which Russia already controls, create a land bridge here to the Russian military bases on the Black Sea. Remember this screenshot from Russia today. This is the Kremlin's propaganda arm from yesterday. Putin, Ukraine blackmailed, stole Russian gas in one-way relationship. There was another one of these lower thirds, is what we call them in the TV business. Putin, the West is ignoring a genocide of 14 million people in eastern Ukraine, setting up this idea that Russian troops must protect ethnic Russians from a genocide. That is Putin's justification for war. In retrospect, the invasion should come as no surprise. February 22nd, 2014, the day that the Russian troops crossed late last night, U.S. time, the morning of the 22nd, is the day that Ukrainian protesters ousted Putin puppet Viktor Yanukovych from power in Ukraine. He was led out of the capital in Kyiv 8 years ago today. It was a huge embarrassment to Vladimir Putin. And now, 8 years later, Vladimir Putin is back. What are Putin's goals here? Obviously, he wants to restore greater Ukraine. He's using Belarus to do this. This is new satellite images just in the past couple of hours. You can see in there where huge numbers of Russian tanks, hundreds of Russian tanks that have been staged by the Ukrainian border, both in Belarus, which is a Russian puppet state, and then also in the Russian proper homeland next to Ukraine, about 10, 15 miles from the border. The Russian tanks have all departed. Where are they going? So these satellite images were from up here and from this area here. All of those troops are pushing in. The buffer zone here that we talked about earlier, this is the idea that they have the Russian separatists here. This gives the Russian military the ability to move all the way up against the Ukrainian lines. That means that when Vladimir Putin decides to move in, he can use overwhelming force against the Ukrainian military, which is very, very small, pales in comparison to the Russian military, especially when it comes to air power. We talked about Belarus. This is Belarus to the north, the Russian puppet state. The Russian forces here and here can then put pressure on Kyiv. They don't have to go into Kyiv, into the capital, in order to totally destabilize the government. If you will, if they can squeeze the Ukrainians from all three sides here, leaving only a land bridge out to Poland, well, for Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, it very easily could be the end of his government, his ability to control Ukraine right there. All Vladimir Putin needs to do is tell his ethnically Russian allies here to move towards Kyiv, and it's game over.
Who in the Lord's name does Putin think gives him the right to declare new so-called countries on territory that belong to his neighbors? This is a flagrant violation of international law and demands a firm response from the international community.
Today, the Secretary of State of the United States canceled his meeting that was scheduled later this week with the Russian foreign minister in protest. And President Biden ordered American forces in Italy and Germany to move towards NATO's eastern border with Russia, including an infantry battalion, 8 F-35 strike fighters, and 34 attack helicopters. Plus, there will be new sanctions against Russian banks, and President Biden promises sanctions on Russian elites and their family members, those names to come tomorrow morning. Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.